off. First of all, welcome everyone and happy birthday to Tulika. It's 30 years. Really excited to be here, to be having this chat with everyone. Before we get started, quick introductions. Though I don't think most of this panel needs introductions because I think everyone knows everyone here, but still, just a quick round of intros. So first up, of course, we have Radhika Menon, who is the founder and publisher. And then, of course, we have senior editor Deeya Nayar, who joined in 1998. I got the year right. So that's been about 28 years now that Deeya has been a part of Tulika. And then Priya Krishna, who's also senior editor, who joined in 1999. So again, about 27 years. And then, of course, we have Meghaa Gupta. Though we introduced her as author on the poster, I think her connection goes way beyond that. She joined Tulika in 2014 and as an editor transitioned into rights till about 2022. So she's been with Tulika for about 8 years. She's also written 2 books with Tulika, A Home of Our Own and The Monster at the Window. Apart from that, she's also written books with Penguin Random House. And she also curates the Nature Writing for Children's program at Azim Premji University and is a co-founder of Literature Across Borders with Patspar University. And I've had the privilege of sort of taking over from Meghaa in 2022 with the rights portfolio at Tulika. Hi, I'm Sangeetha, and I've been with Tulika for about 4 years now. And yeah, with that, I'm just going to ask Meghaa to sort of help kickstart this conversation for today. Over to you, Meghaa.
Thank you, Sangeetha. Thank you. I'm feeling a little sheepish because I had the longest intro with a panel who clearly surpassed me in years and experience. But, to kick things off, Radhika, 30 years of children's publishing in India. It's such a remarkable few decades. Children's publishing has changed so dramatically in the last 3 decades. How has Tulika's publishing program evolved in this period? What are some of the opportunities and challenges that have come your way, and how have you sort of dealt with these?
Well, it seems looking back, it's like 2 worlds we're functioning in. Those days when we started, yes, we were the first, one of the first. And it was a slower, quieter, less frenzied time, and much more difficult in one sense because we were just starting off. There was no book market for children's books, and we started with multilingual books, and there, for multilingual books, there's absolutely no market. And so we had to actually create those markets, which means we were struggling. And but somehow it was easier to kind of meet people, talk to people. So we were constantly, of course, finding ways and means of publishing books, trying to find the money for it. And actually that went on for quite a long time, almost 15 years looking back. We had to knock on doors constantly, from government agencies to NGOs, because we were publishing in so many languages, and to corporates. And some of them did work, but what it really meant was that, as I said, we were going from book to book. There wasn't a regular kind of market or distribution system, and which was really a challenge. And now the challenge is suddenly it's all changed, and there's so much more publishing, children's publishing, so many books, and so many publishers, both small and big, medium and big. Everyone has got into children's publishing, which is good in the sense that has created a market, created awareness. But it also means, in one sense, and of course, the whole digital world has opened up, which means, you're vying for visibility. And Well, on online, you had to be on your toes. Um, on social media constantly. I mean, everyone who has dealt with that knows that, and so which is why I said you know it's a more frenzy time, and there's no kind of sitting back, and mm, uh, it's not just that, it's not just social media, but also, there's so much happening in terms of book events and book fairs. Schools have suddenly sat up, and now we have a lot of that happening, and lots more. There are book festivals, children's book festivals, schools actually wanting children's book festivals, book fairs. So it's a constant year-round kind of activities, and that's not easy. And if you're a small team, I mean, we do have, but we are bigger now, having been around for so long. But even then, there's just so much to handle. So it is a different world now. So. Megha, you have seen when you moved from a publishing house like DK, Darling Kindersley, and then came to Tulika, that must be a whole new world, isn't it? That you
Yeah,
moved into. So how was that?
Radhika, that just feels like, I was in my mid-20s. Now I'm going to be 40 years.
Let's not
And,
talk
I mean,
ages
like,
now.
yeah. Okay, no, I think that's wrong. I probably shouldn't get into that. But I just feel like it feels like a different life, And I think for me, what was so different about Tulika, obviously the scale of operations at DK is very different. The books are primarily produced for an audience outside India, although they themselves, I think what unites or what was similar for me was this sort of sensibility of bringing text and images together. And, they would think in terms of international languages. So, having a design which sort of keeps room for foreign languages, because every language behaves differently on a spread. It might need more space. But I think at Tulika working, I think Tulika also, we work very differently in that it's a very collaborative, democratic process where everybody has a say on a manuscript, and it is going into so many languages. There is so much of intense deliberation. And initially it was, very surprising for me because I think we were working on this. I still remember, I think we were talking about this book which I eventually worked on, Dungi, about a sheep. And there was some very intense debates on whether I think the
You
author had
dance.
originally put her in a skirt, Dungi dance. And, the author had originally put the Dungi in a skirt. And there was a lot of deliberation on no, skirt, no, it's should be a lungi, or it should be. I mean, I would, initially like think about, and, so much of deliberation around this was both amusing and also very interesting, because I realized just how much, publishing in a country which is as diverse as India, and having a publishing program that caters to so many people, of so many different sort of tonalities, means for every book, how much effort and thought goes into the choice of words and the illustrations. And also, and now, for a few years, I have been working with young people who aspire to get into publishing or want to write books. And I think independent publishing really throws you at the deep end. And that is the kind of experience everybody needs to have at the start of their careers. I mean, even though, in a big publishing house, you're working on a far more sort of large scale of operations, as an individual, you are still a cog in the wheel. You are pretty much doing your own thing. Whereas at Tulika, I mean, and I suppose it's true of most independent publishing, because resources are limited. So everybody is doing a lot of different things at the same time. and it exposes you to a book's life, not just as a manuscript that becomes a book, but illustrations, working with 8 languages, working with the marketing team, working with 8 translators with their own hajar questions coming out sometimes of what to do with a particular word, and then also planning backwards from when the book comes out. And I think if I hadn't joined Tulika, I wouldn't have actually loved children's publishing the way I do. I mean, I always, a lot of people find it very funny when I say that I think children's publishing is my first love. And I think that's because of all the years I spent at Tulika, reading the books and understanding the books and seeing what a book can mean to a child. And I wouldn't have ever done something like subsidiary rights if I had stayed in big publishing and not joined Tulika, because it was only, I think in a smaller setup that people are willing to take chances with you, and you can really stretch yourself and see, okay, I'm capable of doing this and that. And so, yeah, Radhika, I think for me, that was both a pleasure and an eye-opener in the best way possible. But I think Sangeetha has a question now.
No, I mean, I think I just wanted to pivot from that and basically ask, because you were talking about, like, say, Dungi dance, for example, and the kind of sort of decision making that was good. And it's interesting because in the 4 years I've been here and I've been watching the editorial team kind of work away at different books, right? And it's so interesting sometimes the debates that come, because it's things you won't even think of. Like, I think I remember for It's So Hot, I think there was a translator who came in for Gujarati or something, who was sitting with Deeya, and she was talking about, what do we call like ice candy? And I'm like, can we use gola? Can we use another barf ka gola or some other kind of word? And it was so fascinating to see this decision-making process. And I was just thinking, especially for Deeya and Priya as editors, right? For both of you, what has it been like over the years working on so many books? How has it sort of influenced you and sort of, I guess, enriched you, over the years, at 28 and 27 years? So, I mean, I'm sure you have things to share about that. Deeya, would you like to go first?
Yeah, well, first of all, like you said, the number of books means editorially the range, the genres that we do. There's just so much going on, and that is, I think, we're very lucky to get editorially this kind of exposure and experience and hands-on working with non-fiction picture books of so many varieties, bilinguals, all of that. Personally, I think one of the most enriching things for me has been this deep immersion in languages. It has been such a joy and such a learning that, the interaction between languages, Indian languages, the interaction between English and almost all Indian languages, on the other end, all of that. That's been such a learning, and what it does to a story when you're translating it in so many languages, the kind of depth it brings to a story. You're looking beyond just most of our manuscripts come in English, or used to come. Now they come in more languages. But when a manuscript gets transformed from English to another language, it changes, and it changes the English dramatically, not dramatically, nuancedly. That's what. The other thing I think for me has been, like with all of us, just this interaction, working, when you're working with children, looking through children, you're viewing things through children, how something complex can be so simple, and the way it is put, and vice versa. Something simple can get so layered and nuanced. It's been a joy. Like Meghaa said, it's really the joy of children's books that has come through for me.
Priya, for you?
So I joined as a novice, and so being thrown into the editorial with, starting with Sandhya and then Deeya also, I think learning so much from them, and just the proficiency of language and being able to learn from them as to how to edit a text. I think it's I was a literature student, but still, I think that really benefited me. And then the second most important thing is I was collecting books for my kids growing up, different kinds of books. But I never found the kind of range that, Tulika published. And getting into those books has really opened my eyes to the different Indias that exist, because through our many child protagonists and, characters, we really have a deep look into these different, social milieus and experiences that kids really have. So I think that's really been enriching. And the other thing is how visuals work. I think from Radhika, I've seen how she conceives a particular book and how the visual and text must work. So I think all this has been really enriching in terms of experience of now how when I place a layout, I say, would this work? And, of course, Radhika will have the final word on it, but it just opens your eyes to being alert about these things. And it's been a tremendous experience. I think I've learned a lot, and main thing is being pushed by all the debates that we've had in the editorial room. We agree to disagree, we disagree. Yeah, but then, so it's been a fascinating experience.
Yeah, no, it's just always so fun to actually, I think, watch the three of you have a conversation editorial about, because it's things that honestly, at least I would never think of. And I said, oh, I'd never even considered this, that an illustration should maybe be this way, it could be perceived in another way. So it's always like the nuance of it is so interesting. When I get to kind of see the three of, I think for all of us, when we see the three of you kind of discuss, elements of a book. But having said that, Tulika does publish in English and, 8 Indian languages. Most of the picture books are in the Indian languages. And, what are the kind of challenges that come up when you're doing so many languages simultaneously for a story? Because it's not an easy thing. To do it in one language itself is a challenge at times. To do it in, 8 other languages as well is really sort of pushing it, sometimes. So, what are the kind of challenges that come up when you're publishing in multiple languages like this? Radhika, do you want to take that first, perhaps?
Well, one of the things is, when you're talking about a language which the speakers of that language have of course, you have the translator. And one thing we found is no two translators agree. And the speakers, I mean, the readers, everyone has opinions far more than in English, and about usages, about spellings, about everything. And we've had experiences where so Tamil books that we published in the early days under the banyan, which was translated by the writer Vasanti, she would, she used kind of very informal language. Tamil, is a language where there's a certain way you write and speak. The speaking is far more informal, but not so in the writing. There's some term for it, but and Vasanti is a writer who actually writes a spoken language. And I remember when it went to press, and we were happy about it, in the sense we were breaking into a new kind of space in translation, is what we thought. But we actually had the press call us and tell us that, oh, this is all wrong. The printer called saying, the Tamil can't be written like this, and children can't be reading this. I mean, it threw us off completely. It's only because the translator stood by that and took a stand. So then, we could go by that. So that's the kind of reaction. Then when a writer translated, Malayalam writer, the YY girl, into what I thought was a very nice way of translating, because it is obviously, the YY girl is not just, you can't just translate it literally maybe, but the usage itself. And, and this was by a writer, Paul Zachariah, but I was told that, no, this is wrong. You can't say in the Penguti in Malayalam. And I was like, why not? I mean, why should it be? So there's a lot of rigidity. Also because it's children's books, and also because everyone has an opinion. So, so this is something we face constantly then and now. Maybe we are a little more confident and kind of know how to deal with it. But all the time things are coming up. And there is this whole, language is very gendered. Sometimes the use of language, not sometimes, most of the time. And what we would call politically incorrect, a lot of that. So to be sensitive to that and be able to translate. So we have to be kind of alert to those things. And caste, some of the names of professions, for instance, are very casteist, and it's used very unthinkingly. It's so natural to the language. It's used very unthinkingly. So it's something that you have to be constantly alert to and learn. And so we have to kind of refer to others and find out about such things. So the challenges in language publishing is, what sounds fun can become frivolous, or the other way around. It's those kinds of things that really a translator has to be very attuned to, and we as editors too. And I must say, between ourselves, we're able to handle most of it, and we also do it across languages to see how it works.
Yeah.
So it's a constant.
Yeah. Priya, what about you? What are some things you've maybe come across?
Like Radhika has covered the bigger issues. I remember even for it, It's So Hot, there were certain lines that had a certain rhythm and a certain, I wouldn't say poetic quality, but it had a certain rhythm to it. And some of the translators struggled with getting it. And so you had to come up with inventive ways of coining words or, to make it child friendly. Finally, it's a child who's reading it, so it needs to be accessible. But more on the practical questions, I think publishing in languages is it's quite a task, because there's first of all the logistics of getting everything back in time, meeting deadlines, and then going back and forth with the translators quibbling about all these things. Also, like Radhika said, to see what is currently acceptable, because these are times where you have to be politically correct, and also finally mainly what is child friendly, what is the level of language that we can. And that's a little tricky, because when we deal with Hindi, I found that sometimes I would think in my head that it would be all right for a child when you use a kind of a standard usage. We would think that maybe it's a little too elevated, but then somewhere in UP, if a child is reading it, he or she is used to speaking a certain way. So what I may think is child friendly might be too basic, so those kind of things.
Yeah. And Deeya, for you?
Well, what's coming to mind is when Radhika was talking about how things change in a language. We did this book, Soda and Bunda. Very simple. I mean, the language is so utterly simple. Soda is, so-and-so is a cat, so-and-so is a dog. But the thing is that the dog was female, wasn't it? And
Yes.
it became, in Hindi, it becomes kutia, which is awkward. You don't say kutia. It's almost like an abuse or something. And then why should only the female be an abuse? So, it became so complicated. In fact, the translator, one of our wonderful translators, one of our oldest translators, Sushma, she came back and she said, this has a lot of problems. And then Soda, just tell me again, Soda is the dog and Bunda is the cat, or the other way. I'm confused now. So the dog tells the cat, you naughty cat, you go from here, nikal jao. And then it is like, is the male telling the female, get out of the house? If we were to switch the genders, then that becomes a problem. We ran into such, what you would imagine, ridiculous issues, but they're very important in the language concerned. So this is what it can throw up. So we abandoned the idea of translating that book altogether, which was such a pity. And Nivi, the author, Nivedita, she was really upset that we didn't do it in the languages. But when we explained, we said, this is what's coming up in just one language. We don't know what's going to happen in the others. So it's always a learning and endlessly fascinating.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting, no, because the way I look at it, I think what is unique about Tulika is that outside in the market, it is perceived as an English language publisher bringing out books in 8 languages. So there is also a lot of judgment attached with that. That you are an English language publisher working across languages. What license do you have to publish? And so then I think there is an extra layer of critique that comes with that assumption. But I think
there is all the time, especially initially. But now it's our books that are kind of taken for all kinds of by a lot of reading groups and
programs.
NGOs and schools, even government, for their work. I mean, and much more than others. Also because we publish so much, and so that that really kind of validates that it's not that we're some English publisher publishing languages, kind of dabbling in languages. It's more that our books are taken seriously and are part of a lot of reading programs. And actually, we've come to a stage when it's the language books that actually support the publishing. Despite that kind of draining us, in the early days, if we had taken the decision to stop publishing in languages and just do English, I think we would have kind of sailed through far better. But meaning we stuck to it. And I must say now it is the languages that kind of, I won't say sustain the English, but it is, works very well.
On that note, sorry, is there something?
No. Oh, sorry, Deeya, did you want to say something?
No, I thought I'll ask Deeya and Priya and Radhika that in so many books, are there any sort of standout books that come to mind, for all of you? Anybody can go first, whoever has an immediate favorite popping to mind.
I want to mention Why Girl.
Okay.
This was published, this is by Mahashweta Devi,
Yes.
published in 2000. And, Mahashweta Devi, this was not a book she had written. It was something she had apparently, just scribbled on a piece of paper, the story. This was her experience about this Moina, and that story she wrote out in English. And is there a lot of noise, or is it just me?
No.
It's fine.
Oh, okay. So she wrote it out, and it was Mala Dayal, who was the editor at NBT and so on. She was editing an anthology for Penguin, anthology of stories, children's stories, and she used this story in the introduction as a story told to her by Mahashweta Devi. And when I read it, I said, oh, what a wonderful story. We should do this as a book. And so we did, got the permissions and so on. And we met her at Frankfurt Book Fair, where India was the guest of honor. Yeah. And so she was there, and she said, you made that one story into a whole book. So she was really surprised, because this concept of picture book is just not there in languages, and it's usually published in magazines or as a collection of stories. And also the other thing, apart from it being a wonderful story, also there was an intern from Srishti who illustrated it, and it was amazing. I mean, she extremely talented, Kanika Kini, and I think they spent 2 months in Tulika as interns, and she just sat there and got it. I mean, straight away, the treatments, the visualization, everything worked so well. And then we got that book translated by writers. So we had, I think, Ashoka Mitran in Tamil, Paul Zakaria in English. I can't remember, not all, but some of them. Did Girish Khanna do Kannada?
Yes, yes,
He
he
did,
did.
he did, he did. So, I mean, it was all very exciting for us. And apart from which, Pratham, which had just started in 2000, they used YY Girl as the book to launch their Read India program because we had published in so many languages. So that, and we reprinted even now recently. So it's a book that is quite timeless, relevant even today, and which is sad in one sense, but that's how it is. That's how relevant it is. So that's Why Girl. And if I
Nice.
may, also another one is Tree in My Village by
Oh,
the
yes.
artist Paritosh Sen. And he was an artist in residence in NID, National Institute of Design. And this was in 1998 when we visited there. We went to NID on I think to do classroom workshops. I can't remember. And there was this portfolio, he had done of this a tree portfolio version, which is just loose sheets in a big folder, and it was there in the library. And we saw it, and I just loved it. And I said, "What a lovely!" But it was in one color, sepia. And so it would be lovely if you could do this book, what a book it is. And it was in Bengali, which was translated into English. I think he himself wrote it in English. And so we did that as a book, and it was great because we kind of were in touch with him. He was so enthusiastic. He said, "I'll do these in watercolors." So we redid those illustrations in watercolors. And we have reprinted it, and we're reprinting it now. It's a wonderful story. So it's when you say standout books, it's more the way those books came to be and the way it evolved. In the stories, the backstories are quite fascinating, and that makes the books very special. Deeya, Priya, anything you all remember?
For me, more than standout books, more favorite books or books I really like. I think one is When Ali Became Bajrangbali, because I think it's coming together of irreverent humor. It's a typical hero story, but done so irreverently, but with a lot of humor. And Priya Kurian's fabulous illustrations, I think, just lift the book. And the other more recent one is Will Gundi Come Home? I think again we worked with Fida Hamid, who was an intern, and she just sat there and got it with minimal, with minimal inputs from all of us. I think just an odd comment on some shifting in perspective, but she just got it. Again, a touching story, also visually rendered with a lot of fun. Those two, and then the concept books. I think I would go with Priya's Day or Line and Circle. I think Line and Circle, classic.
Yeah, this is difficult to kind of Sangeetha, for you, are there any, after you came or you've been there, you've seen the books, you have pitched them for rights. So what is your, are there books that come to mind?
I think, I mean, from a rights perspective, oh gosh, there's like, I think the classic on which I was surprised, but I was actually really happy to see. I think this was probably in the early 2000s, rights were sold for Line and Circle, in fact, in multiple languages. And it's such a simple story, but the fact that, there was potential in that and that kind of got the kind of reach it did was amazing.
32 languages we sold rights for, but it's because it's a bilingual book. So
so I think that was also maybe the other part of it, but it was just amazing to see, because it's a very simple, sweet story. To see it kind of have that kind of reach is, I thought, was pretty amazing. Was quite amazing.
Yeah.
But
Meghaa?
Meghaa, do you have anything?
Oh, actually, I was very curious to know if Deeya had any favorite books before I get into mine, because I have a slightly longer answer for
Yeah.
this one.
I have lots of favorite books. I mean, it's going to be difficult to start. I'm going to shortcut and do some favorite series. Uh, so, because the idea of the series, for one, looking at art, I mean, I think that is, as a concept for me, that is, I think it's really something that we came up with it, and we started looking at art when in 2011, I think 2010, 2011 is when we started Barefoot Hussain, that first set of four, and the way it has expanded from those four artists to stitching stories, which is embroidery of Gujarat. I mean, to make an art out of that, the concept that art is so much. And now Ajanta is our latest. So for me, as A for Ajrak, there's just so much that is covered, and to bring it to children has been a huge challenge, and we've had wonderful authors to work with. And that was something. The other, of course, is my all-time favorite India focus. But the what is most talked about is the India through archaeology, which was the first and is a classic. And I still remember the thrill in 2018, I think, when we went to Bologna, Radhika and I, when we were shortlisted. And in this showcase, and the center of the fair, they had a bookcase with books, and right on top was India through archaeology, and it was such a high. The other book in that series, and something I want to point out, is very underspoken. It's called 25 Game Changers, India Through People. And the thing is that it's not just a biography. It's not just an anthology of biographies, but the focus is how they were game changers. I mean, someone like even a Gandhi or a Tagore, or the others are easier, Bose, etc. They have this one thing that changed. But how do you, I remember we had such discussion on how is Gandhi a game changer? That was the focus. And why I'm bringing this up is that is something about Tulika that I really love, that we take the harder route to focus on something that there are so many biographies of great Indians in the market, but this to me was different.
Yeah.
And in picture books, as we're talking series, Baby Bahadur, I mean, Gajapati, there's no point talking because it is so popular. But the Baby Bahadur series is, I think, the only animal picture book series, multi-animal, not elephant, in the country, apart from Panchatantra, which...
Yes.
And how it deals with childhood. I think Baby Bahadur.
Yeah, and how it is sweet and fun, but not bland. That's and that shows what good writing can do to even simple stories. Yeah, Megha, over to you now.
No. I mean, Deeya, everyone's spoken about Tulika's picture book publishing program, but something that that always strikes me, because I've read so much of the catalog now. I think almost all of, at least till 2022, most of it. Is our chapter books, which were really ahead of their time in every way. I mean,
So true.
now people are talking about, we're being more inclusive, we are covering difficult topics. But, Tulika was already doing that in the early 2000s. There's a book like, not just The Train Ride Away, with the child negotiating, his parents' divorce. And I mean, a book like, Kabir the Weaver Poet, which is a book that I really like. And it is just so relevant, and such a powerful secular story. I revisit it often, when I find myself in some dilemmas, because it's just so beautifully written. And also, I think I'm not sure, I think it was one of Ranjit Lal's first books, that Summer at Kalagad. And one of his finest books. I mean, it was so back in 2022, I sort of founded Literature Cross Borders with Alexia Casali at Badska, and it was one of the first books that came to mind as one of the, because they were looking specifically for chapter books. And I was like, yeah, everything's there. And then I remember taking this book, and the student at Batspa who read it, she said that was my introduction to Ranveer Lal. And I went and bought more of his books after reading this one, because it's I think it's one of Ranjit's finest books. My Brother Tutu, Urmila Mahajan's drug addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. Also the anthologies, Sorry, Best Friend, and One World, with so many textbooks pick up. So it says something about the sort of thought that drives a publishing program. It's not just catering to popular demand. It is catering to what we need as humans. And we forget that children are also humans who need this sort of exposure. Picture books, I think the Priya, I'll agree, definitely Ali Became Bajrang Bali is a picture book that I really, really love. I also love the books that Soumya and Nivi worked on together, the Mild Diaries, and the Pleasant Rakshasa is one of my favorite picture books from Tulika. Nandini Nayar's Amma is a book that I've bought many times, to give to different children who I know. So really, and I'm so glad, Radhika, that we've reprinted Paritosh Sen's Tree in My Village, because it is the one book I remember. The last time we met, I was saying, Radhika, why don't we bring it back? I mean, it's such a lovely book, and more people need to access it. So yeah. I mean, I really think.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to quickly pivot from Megha's answer and kind of say that I really agree. My Brother Tutu is one of those books that I immediately, when I read it, I was amazed that, because it's a book that's so ahead of its time. And I think it's one of those books that it holds so much relevance today, for better or worse. And another picture book for me, I remember when I joined Tulika, and I was blown away by, was Red, actually. The fact that a child, affected by conflict. And I think to kind of have that, and came out in 2018, which again, I was very surprised. And again, not because Megha's here, but genuinely A Home of Our Own was again another book I was very surprised by, just given the sort of depth and sensitivity. And it's so observational, and it's so well done. It's not preachy in any way. And I think that's something that really drew me to Tulika's books, that at no point is there any lecturing or sort of moral science that's being given out. It's just very simple stories. It's very observational. It's very, this is a story. This is a childhood that exists. They're being as inclusive as we can. We're just giving you these stories. You make what you want out of them, which I think is so lovely in a way for a children's publishing house to do.
Actually, finally, it's in the writing. I mean, all the books now across, what among all of us we've all mentioned, it's really finally comes down to the writing. I mean, they're all so well written. That's what we look for. Yes, I mean, we do edit. We work with the writers, and so many of them are very open to it, and it makes such a difference. When it's in the writing, the books that you mentioned, the chapter books. We don't get those kind of manuscripts anymore, but and well, we are not doing chapter books unless we get an exceptional one. But
sorry, quickly, I'm just butting in for 1 second. One series I forgot to mention, and you can continue. Aditi.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Again, saying ahead of its times. I mean, the 13 books in the series, I think it's one of the longest series. I don't know now, maybe there are others. Yes, so we'll just go on like this. So we can move on to the next question.
I think we can talk about milestones. So I think, the fact is we're celebrating 30 years. So I think, Radhika, what do you think are some of the bigger milestones that Tulika has had? What are some standout moments for you in that sense?
Well, one, I think we started with just 4 languages, and then we started adding on other languages. One was for the Pratham reading program. They wanted 2 or 3 languages added. So finally, it's 9. And then there are other languages like the languages from the Northeast, Deeya, the Mishmi, and
no, then we did Picture Gandhi.
Picture Gandhi in
7 Arunachali languages. 6
yes,
Arunachali and 1 Bodhi.
Yeah.
That's
So
Me,
that,
I
and
think.
then Odia, so it came to
Mundari
us,
for Pratha.
requests, yeah, Mundari. So for Parag, and so so each of those is not that we do it regularly, but I'm saying we do get those requests. But 9 languages, yes. So that certainly was a milestone. And then, um, well, the Bologna, the nomination in 2018 for Best Publisher from Asia was completely out of the blue, and it was great being nominated. We didn't win it, but great being nominated. We hadn't participated in the Bologna. I would go as a visitor, but it just was too expensive to take a stall and so on. But yeah, that, and then now, well, anniversary year, we've got nominated again. So let's see. And then the London Book Fair prize for excellence in translation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Literary
And
No,
translation
literary
initiative, I think.
translation. Yeah.
literary translation. That again, complete surprise. We hadn't applied for it. There wasn't a call for application. It just came. And wonderful to be recognized, especially for that. And the citation was great. And then I think the one more London Book Fair prize for just best
Best children's
publisher.
published.
Yeah,
And
best
in
children's
translation, I think we had
Yeah,
And
we had
we
right?
submitted.
Other one,
second time.
yeah,
Yeah, the other one. Yeah,
yeah,
possible.
bigger
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
yeah, but
And
still very
then of course, here as a milestone, I have to mention the Gajapati series. I mean, it really is a milestone in publishing, in children's publishing. The way that book has taken off, we now have 7 books in the series, and it is amazing. I mean, we have the first book we published in 2000, Gajapati Kulapati, no thought of series, nothing, just a fun story with sounds and Ashok's illustrations and story. And we just did that as a one-off book. And year after year, we were reprinting it. But those years, as I told you, it was not like now. It was difficult to there's not such a market for children's books. And so it was slow, but we were reprinting it. But suddenly, when the markets opened up and this whole, children's publishing, suddenly children's books were everywhere. Gajapati Kulapati took off in a way that we just hadn't expected. And now, so many years since it was in 2026, we've published about 70,000 books, and with the languages, it's well over a lakh. And the subsequent books also, we have sold 50 and 30, and everything, like reprinting constantly. And it's really, and Ashok is, of course, everywhere at all the lit fests. He's in big demand. He's there, and there are long queues for him, for his signing. And I mean, that is quite a milestone to have that kind of a series. Then we sold animation rights. We don't know where that's going, but we did sell animation rights. And again, that is a first. And so, yes, Gajapati Kulapati. Then COVID time, we had this, uh, you know, uh, kind of proposal to we propose that we do podcasts of our books in 3 languages. So English, Hindi, and Tamil, 30 titles in each. And so that was, we're talking about 90 titles in languages, but it was COVID time. And, so we were all very focused on it. And we worked across cities with translators, musicians. So the song, music, picture book stories are so short. So we had to thematically do these podcasts. And we did,
Write up verse also. Write up
yeah, so
verse.
with write up verse, uh, so little songs set to music and different groups. This person was in where was he? Uh,
Kanpur.
Kanpur. So in Kanpur, in Bombay, in Chennai, I mean, it was really all done remotely. And it's wonderful. Pity, I mean, Spotify doesn't, has kind of moved away from that area, not doing anymore in that space. So it's a bit lost, but it's there.
Yeah.
And now we find a lot, parents coming up and saying that, I think even yesterday, somebody was saying, why haven't you done more? And, children love it. And they come and pick up the books because they've heard it. So, that's another milestone. And well, I can think of, when I was talking about language books now, I can't remember the tsunami year, if anyone remembers. Uh,
Oh,
sorry?
2004, I think.
2004.
2004.
Yeah, I think UNICEF approached us saying they were desperate for Tamil books and, Tamil children's books as part of the rehabilitation program of children who were affected by the tsunami. And there were huge numbers. And they wanted books in Tamil. And they play, and we were struggling with, finding a market for these books. And suddenly there was a need, there was a demand. And they came to us and they wanted 6,000 of, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 titles, and all overnight. And we really had to do it at that pace, but it was major, and it also shows a need for books in the languages at times like this, when there's a crisis, apart from just needing it for everyday reading, but also these kinds of situations. So for language publishing, that was a big milestone. Yep. I'm sure there are others, which I'm not, these are the things that come to mind. And for you, Sangeetha, for rights, can you think of?
Yeah, I think, I mean, at least since I've joined, I think the biggest one is definitely the one you mentioned, right? The animation rights for Gajapati
Of
Kotha,
course.
which I think even Meghaa has worked very closely on when I was
Yes.
transitioning into the
Yes.
role as well.
Yes.
So I think that's been huge. I think, as you rightly said, for Indian children's publishing, to see something like this happen. But apart from that, I think it's been very promising to see how digital has been growing. And Radhika, you and I discuss this all the time with audiovisual, the requests that are coming in and sort of the partnerships now. We're kind of getting, I think World Reader has been one of our best partnerships. They've taken, I think, close to some 90 titles at this point. And, the fact that they still continue to work with us, National Library Singapore, again, the sort of video in Tamil, they're taking titles. GetLit is another partner for sure. But also it's very promising to see this growth in Indian languages suddenly, especially Malayalam also. The interest that's been coming, titles we've been selling as well. So I think that's been really promising. And yeah, it's exciting times, even for, I think, permissions to see so many Tulika stories in school textbooks is, I think, also pretty incredible. To see that really included in curriculum is, again, something so amazing to see. So yeah, these are, I think, for me, some things that come to mind. I don't know for Meghaa, for you, because you've been here since 2014, you've kind of seen a very different era of Tulika also in a way. So I'm wondering, are there any milestones that come to mind for you?
I mean, I think Radhika and you've already sort of covered most of the ground, but I mean, I don't know whether to call it a milestone in that sense, but 30 years in independent children's publishing in a country like India with all of its ever-changing, political and other dynamics, and to do it, I mean, without cutting corners and without sort of compromising on one's dignity in any way, and on sort of like, I think the fact is, when Tulika succeeds, it says something much greater than one would imagine, because it's an original idea, an English publisher bringing out taking books from languages, taking them to English and other Indian languages long before translation became the buzzword in publishing. You're already doing a lot of these things. So I think when, in the panel so far, everyone has spoken about how, a lot of what Tulika did back is now things everyone's talking about in children's publishing. So what it tells me, and I'm sure it wasn't easy when you started, and always sort of doubting yourself and thinking that, gosh, am I just being too ambitious, and taking a very big
No,
radical.
not doubting, no, not doubting ourselves. I don't think we ever doubted. We were so convinced, just stuck to our
Yes.
convictions. But the market, yes, was completely kind of closed.
But
So
I
it
mean, I
was
think
an
push
uphill
ahead.
task. Yeah.
For me, that's the thing. It's 30 years of taking a chance and being so sort of like pushing through with conviction, even in the face of all of these challenges. That is a milestone in itself, because I've seen a lot of people buckle, under all of that pressure and under all the questions and the other
Yeah.
challenges. So yeah, for me, it's for me, it's that. But on that note, actually, I have a question for everyone else on the panel about social media. Radhika, at the very beginning, you said how it's become very frenzied and the pace of everything has gone up. But I think Tulika has also gradually built up a pretty substantial social media presence. And maybe if, maybe you can start with Sangeetha, because Sangeetha is more,
Tech
more
The younger lot, the younger lot.
social media. I don't think Deeya, Priya, or Radhika have any personal social media handles. So that
I
says a
have
lot
one. I
about.
have one, but mainly to follow lots of other things, books and everything else. But no.
So,
No.
I mean, it would be nice to know a little bit about Sangeetha,
I
social
mean,
media.
yeah, I think it's amazing because just the fact, I mean, I think all children's publishers are somehow on social media now.
Yeah.
And I
Have to
think,
be.
yeah, you have to be. But I think it's amazing that Tulika has also sort of built this following, right? And this community. And the thing is, social media affords you that visibility today. Like people who are probably looking for kids' books or who've never been heard, right? Interest wise, if there's something and it pops up on your algorithm, you're getting a new customer through that portal anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think one cool thing that really happened, which I found extremely cool, was when Asha the auto driver was coming out, and there was a reel where Sandhya Prabhat had done some animation illustrations and we put it out, and this director Anjali Menon sort of reposted that reel, which I thought was so cool, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I think to just have those kind of moments is really special. I remember we did a social media post where Preeti, who's in marketing, and she had this idea of basically getting all the team members to hold books as sort of the faces, and that kind of also blew up and got a lot of shares, and we saw a lot of traction from that as well. So it's like these
Yeah.
moments like this suddenly that just grab people's attention, and you're finding new customers and avenues in that way. So I think that's one cool thing about social media. And of course, Book Talk, I think, has been helpful, I guess, in promoting
Yes,
books to
it
them.
has, which Sangeeta does. And no, speaking of social media, meaning our online presence, I mean, we have been first in these. For example, I think we one of the first to have a website, for instance, when this whole thing started, and have e-commerce, and we actually got best designed websites those many years ago, and. And then yeah, that website kind of grew, and well, it's we are quite it's a major part of our marketing and sales. And talking about social media, it's also, we've had very good team working on it. Earlier it was Anisha who was our marketing person, and now it's Preeti. And they do a marvelous job. It's something that, well, it's also a generational thing where, I shouldn't say that. I think there are people who are pretty tuned in, meaning my age, younger, older, but not us. But actually to see it, because that's the customer base. It's young parents and authors, illustrators. It's quite amazing. In fact, Preeti was saying how sometimes they read a book about a book in on somebody else's post. They don't know anything about it. They know the name and the author and so on, and they DM, saying, I want this book. And Preeti says is they know nothing about Tulika, about nothing. They just heard about it and they liked what they read and they want it. So it's like that. So it's not because it is a Tulika book. Some may respond like that, some don't. So it's a another world where it kind of spreads in different ways and gets picked up in different ways. But it's all these things that have made a difference to our sales, to the awareness of books, and so on. So it's
What's
quite
exciting is how immediate it is also, right? I mean,
Yes.
like
Yeah,
you were saying,
definitely.
and then how democratic also. I mean, when you see, without trying to drop names, you can see some, lots of normal people, and then you'll see some celebrities, reading Tulika books, and so it's really democratic across the board. People come to know about you through a social media platform, so that's quite exciting. And then it immediately translates into recognition and maybe sales also. So that's something really exciting about social media.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, I think,
maybe it's time to
yeah,
kind of
slowly wrap
wind up.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one more question though, I think I have to ask, which is what is the best thing that a child has told you about a Tulika book, to everyone on this panel? Maybe Diya, we can start with Diya because she hasn't spoken for a bit.
I don't interact so much with little kids except my nephew, my grandson. But what I've noticed is how I don't have a comment, but names, the names in our books seem to really catch their attention and they love it. Amani Kutti Amma, Bahadur Shanmugam. It's like even Laila Jugnu, the dogs. That is what I find my grandson going on repeating. And we do have some unusual names, I think, in our books. And now increasingly, a lot of other publishers too. But I think we started that trend long back.
Yeah, I think Baby Bahadur, that was one of the things that
Bahadur.
really appealed to us because
Yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah,
names
yeah.
Radhika had given all the
Yeah.
animals. And
Shanmugam,
yeah,
Reliant.
I
yeah,
echo Dia also. My grandson is just completely taken to our books. I think what he finds, and I find, is that he finds them eminently, relatable, because it's something he loves some of the Western books, but then when he looks at these, I think he just takes to them. And yeah, and the expressions and phrases, for example, Shabana and the goat, he loves saying, Hi Allah, Tauba, Tauba, and he just gets so excited about saying those things. And if I miss the page, he they know I didn't say it, and they just have to repeat, go back, show him the word in turn. Yeah, so it's exciting.
and I must say, both their grandchildren, mine are much older, but both were the same age, around the same age, Diya's and Priya's. Both have taken to the Diya's to the Zakir and his tabla. So he's
Oh,
into tabla in a big way with all
oh
the
wow.
the din and all those sounds. It's full of that. And Priya's little one, is into mridangam and beats and into that with so it's quite how these things can actually open up in one
Yeah.
sense. And
No, I
And
think
for me,
one
it's
more
thrilling because it's two generations. My children from, say, age 3, 4 took to Tulika books because we were traveling. Then we came back, and then this was a world that opened up to them. And then now I'm seeing, grandson. So for me, I'm ecstatic.
yeah, and of course, the books and which we hear this kind of feedback from people who work with children and work with the books, are the librarians, teachers, and so on. And it's quite, and because again of the languages and where it goes, all kinds of places, and the different feedback. I mean, it's so moving, it's so insightful, you learn so much. And so one of the things that uh, has always stayed with me is that this free library network, they have a community library in Delhi, and they had Ambedkar, the boy who asked why, the book in their library, and children from around, come in and read, and it's a free library. And one little boy who didn't read, but he would come, and I mean, he couldn't read very fluently. He would take the Ambedkar book, The Boy Who Asked Why. And he did this every day. And what the librarian found, she wrote to us, is that he would write the title, The Boy Who Asked Why, Ambedkar, The Boy Who Asked Why, um, in a notebook over and over and over again. I
Okay.
mean, what it is that, made him do that, it, he felt empowered in some way, a little boy. And the librarian must have read the story. He keeps looking at the pictures and he comes. So I'm saying such a different kind of reaction that is. So, and we hear this all the time. I mean, quite amazing the kind of uh, uh, feedback we get from.
I mean, I have a niece who loves Puni. She loves the Puni books. Like, I think
Oh,
that was
yeah.
one of the first books I gave her, and she was obsessed. She would just want it to be read to her again and
Yeah,
again and again and
yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah. My children now, my grandchildren, sorry, my grandchildren, all of them, Puni, where's Puni?
Yeah.
That's another series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big favorite. But yeah, I think, to sort of wrap up, final question. What is a birthday wish that all of you have for Tulika? I just want to quickly go and share mine first, which this might be a little superficial, but I'm very hopeful. I hope we win the Bologna Award. That is my I'm just putting it out.
Ditto, Sangeetha, ditto.
Yeah.
I don't know.
On your very first trip there, Sangeetha.
Yeah,
I hope so.
yeah, Sangeetha is going. Yeah, so fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
I think that would be wonderful if we
Yeah.
did, but even if we don't, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want our books. I mean, my birthday wish for Tulika would be just more and more of what we do, and may our books reach kids all over the world, and definitely the last child in India, if possible. That's what I really want.
Well,
And
I
the
have a
world. I
long
think the
list.
world
World,
needs
I said the
more.
world, and in India, the last child, whoever.
Yeah.
May they go to the smallest villages, and we have so many pictures of kids, anywhere in India, just poring over the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
No,
a
I
long
think
list of books we want to do. And I hope, I don't know how, when, but well, my birthday wish is that we not go through that list, but, do that.
First,
yeah.
the reference, Radhika. We
Huh?
have first we have a whole a whole lot of things we keep bombarding Radhika with. Oh, aren't we reprinting this? Aren't we reprinting?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Anyway,
lot of juggling. Yeah.
Megha, do you have any wishes for
Yeah, no,
Tulika?
I just pretty much echo what everyone has said, but I hope that the Tulika Kaka, the Tulika crow keeps flying higher every year and finds lots of people to crow about its list and its accomplishments.
yeah. Anyway, we keep now when I say here Tulika Kaka, or we say Tulika Kaka, I always remember Suniti's, who's Namjoshi, who says, you can't say Kaka, it's a bad word in Marathi. So,
I
there,
know.
there we go.
In translation,
Yeah.
vagaries is our
Well,
translation.
I mean, Tulika crow, let's just say.
Yeah.
Be done with it and not translate this into the many languages.
But
Yeah.
on that note, we've kind of come to
Are
the
there
end.
questions?
Yes, there are. I just wanted to ask, should we take some audience questions?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm just pulling them out. Oh, wow. So
Maybe just
one or two, maybe.
Just,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So there's a question from Aruna Kumar. Everyone spoke about picture books, chapter books. Can you please share on Tulika graphics?
Ah, very exciting. Very exciting. We started Tulika Graphics, what, Deeya, 3 years back?
22 October. Because I was there, I remember.
Okay,
Oh
okay.
my God!
22,
Yeah, about three, 4, 3 months.
22 October.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's very exciting because all kinds of stories open up to graphic novel possibilities. And one that is going to come out, well, hopefully end of this month or early next month, is a book that is adapted from a film. That's another very exciting. We have Unga, by Devashish Makhija, again adapted from a film that was a first.
It's a novel.
And yeah, it's a novel, a YA novel, and won the Neve Literature Award. And now we have this Shera coming up, and we have well, we have several projects, and that we plan to do is graphic novels. And the next one's also very exciting on Khan Bahadur Khan, and Frontier Gandhi, as he is known. And the possibilities are endless for some reason for with graphic novels. And we did Unknown Heroes, P. Sainath's.
Yeah.
So as an anthology of stories, his freedom fighter story adapted from his Penguin book, and done by 16 illustrators, talking of, and what has been that is quite path-breaking, because it's been a bestseller. And we were very skeptical, not sure that stories like these, about freedom fighters, unknown heroes. So these are not the well-known heroes at all. And many of them, there were some who were 100, then just over 100, some who were not there anymore. So these were all, and we, for instance, hadn't heard about many of them. So how would these do? We were not sure. But schools have been taking them. We have been reprinting it. I don't remember, but I think um, 9,000 or something, all in 2 years, and keeps coming. The schools keep ordering. It is because of someone like P. Sainath, but it's a format that we didn't put it together as a just an anthology. We did it as a graphic novel. So yeah, so that's and we are learning. It's a very different kind of format. So we are learning a lot from that.
So maybe, do you want to take one or two more questions? Okay, so one question we have from Anuradha Soumya Narayan. How has your understanding of what children need from books changed over 3 decades?
Not changed. Because
That is the long and short of it.
no, because our first books we're still reprinting. They're still very popular. A book like Ekidoki and was quite timeless, and even now it's we're reprinting them. And so I mean, the conclusion is that children still love those stories. And yeah, we have our grandchildren reading them and responding. So
But if she
I'm not
means in
sure,
response to the, yeah, but if she means in response to, changing society, and I think we are so attuned to it. There are books that are dealing with issues of gender or other
Yeah,
things.
but like Meghaa said, we've done that from the start.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there are books like that.
Yeah, always done them.
Actually, parents are looking more for these kinds of books now,
Yeah,
maybe
true.
more than parents before.
True.
I don't know if that's also true.
No, I think educators definitely are looking for more sort
Yeah,
of
yeah.
inclusive
Schools,
and
and now
diverse.
schools are much more aware, and they're, looking, and as I said, have book fairs, they have literary festivals, they invite authors. So there's a lot of awareness there. So that too changes.
Interestingly, the book that Megha spoke of, Just a Train Ride Away, about a broken home, which was, what year was it? Long back.
Early
And
2000s,
that
right?
won the first ever Bal Sahitya Puraskar.
Yeah.
True.
So even then, there were people who were looking for books like this and appreciating it, whatever. So
Okay, so final question. Are non-fiction picture books in demand as much as fiction?
They are very popular. One of the first non-fiction books which we did was Dancing Bees, by Ranjit Lal. That is very popular. We reprinted it. Whether they're more popular than fiction, I'm not. I think storybooks are more popular, but equally, I think now non-fiction picture books too.
Okay. So I guess that's pretty much about it that we have from audience questions. So yeah, I think that brings us to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. We hope you enjoyed listening to us as much as I think we enjoyed having this conversation. We really, I think,
Yeah.
had a lot of memories and takes
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
our books.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.